All right, looks like we got some folks coming in now. See, this is what happens.
On time and ready to go.
We'll give it another 30 seconds or so, Ashley, and then I'll pass it over to you.
Sounds good.
All right, Ashley, I'll let you go ahead and kick things off, and if people trickle in, that's
Okay.
totally fine.
Sounds like a plan. Good deal. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Good afternoon. First of all, we just appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule to join us and have this conversation with us today. So I'm Ashley Wallace, and I lead our client success team here at Katalyst Network Group. As many of you may already know, Katalyst, we work with organizations every day to help simplify and strengthen technology environments you guys depend on to operate. So as a digital operations partner, our focus is really on helping organizations connect, protect, and operate their digital backbone. So that's the infrastructure, security, and systems that keep the business running day in and day out. Today, we're going to talk about smarter firewall management, better visibility, and real risk reduction without adding complexity for your team. So if you're managing firewalls across a growing environment, you already know the challenge. Configurations that made sense 2 years ago, maybe you wouldn't write those today. Rules that exist because no one's sure on what's going to break if they remove them, and then environments that have grown faster than documentation. So here's what we're seeing consistently. Organizations that have invested heavily in firewall technology, but have quietly lost that confidence in what the firewalls are actually doing today. Not really because of negligence, but just because complexity compounds over time and the standard tools just haven't kept up. So today we're going to show you how to get that confidence back. Joining me are Uriah Berry, he's our senior consulting engineer, and Sean Webb, our manager of managed services, both internal here to Katalyst. Uriah will first walk through the Cisco security cloud control, and then including what our engineers are actually finding inside those real environments, like we talked about during assessments. And then Sean is going to flip over and show you how we manage that at scale with a live demo of Auvik. As a reminder, as we move forward, we're going to keep the attendees muted during our conversation. So please, if you've got questions that come up, don't hesitate to drop those into the chat, and we will have a live Q&A session at the end of the event. So let's go ahead and get started. Uriah, before we get into the demo portion, tell us what Cisco Cloud Security Control actually is.
Yeah, appreciate this. I'm really excited about talking about firewalls. It's probably my favorite topic. So two different products that I'm going to talk through today. The primary one, you've already mentioned, Security Cloud Control. We call it SCC for short. And then the second is AI Ops, which is an industry term, but we're going to explore just what we're seeing that's being added to the Cisco Security Cloud Control and kind of what that looks like and how that impacts our clients and how that impacts us as a managed service provider as well. So SEC is a platform that is not built specifically for MSPs, but in this kind of next generation of it, which is where we're at now, it is built for MSPs in mind. So it's a very powerful tool for us, but just like people to understand, like this is a tool built for you, the client, as well. So if you've not heard of SCC specifically, I'm going to just paint a really simple picture for everybody. It is a cloud-hosted single pane of glass to manage Cisco's entire firewall portfolio. The spoiler alert to that is that it started out on firewalls and it's really strong in that space. Cisco's actually pulling in all of their security products into this platform. So it'll be a single pane of glass across everything that they have. Most people know of PIXs and ASAs and those traditional firewalls, and then the SourceFire acquisition with Firepower, which we now call Cisco Secure Firewall. But there's actually a lot of products that this platform can manage. So if you have Meraki MXs, or if you had Umbrella SIG, which is now Secure Access, so that SASE platform, if you have Cisco SD-WAN, there's a firewall component to that. There's Secure Workload, which is a micro-segmentation product, and Multi-Cloud Defense, which is used for managing those cloud-native firewalls and things like Azure and AWS and GCP and OCI. So lots of different products. We're not going to talk about all of those today, but just know that this is your single point to go manage all those products and eventually all the security lineup there. So that's the main product we're going to be talking about today. The second is AI ops, and this is actually not specific to SEC. It's artificial intelligence operations industry term, and Cisco's already embedded AI, machine learning and LLM into a lot of the products. Have been doing that for years, but the AI ops component they're really pushing as a brand that they're incorporating in a whole lot of products. So I thought it'd be helpful for everybody just to see a quick visual here where we have security cloud control, which is that dashboard that you're going to go to manage your infrastructure. So this top part represents everything you see about your environment. This middle layer here is really about the orchestration layer, pushing firewall policies down to the infrastructure down here, and then reporting that gets sent from that infrastructure back up to kind of a central place where you have visibility. So AI ops is that machine learning and LLM capability that's being added and evolving constantly on all of Cisco products. Just a quick note for everybody that it used to be called SEC, that is, used to be called Defense Orchestrator, or CDO, Cisco Defense Orchestrator for short. It's been around for about 10 years. So Cisco saw this as a important thing a very long time ago, and they just doubled down on building it. And it's come a long way, and it's, in my opinion, a really great product overall. So on the AI ops side, I'm not going to read off a slide or anything here, but I just wanted to tell the story and paint the picture that this is continuing to evolve, and there's a lot of use cases that Cisco is trying to solve here. I'm going to touch on a couple of them today and actually show you practically what those look like. AI assistant, the change management and change impact analysis piece we're going to talk a little bit about, and then the security monitoring and compliance capabilities is pretty cool, and I have a slide on that as well. The problems that we've been trying to solve for a long time, and where SEC and AI ops fits in there, since it's been around for 10 years, it's always been the problem of fragmentation. So if you had 20 firewalls 10 years ago, you were managing those ASAs kind of locally, and a big challenge as we got more centralized management with things like Firepower Management Center, and then Cisco started rolling out these new products. We still had fragmentation because there's all these different products where we're trying to manage things. So pretty obvious, single pane of glass helps solve that fragmentation problem. Second challenge that we see in the industry is just the skills gap. IT's asked to do more with less every day, and I can't tell you the last time that I went into an environment and somebody had a dedicated firewall administrator. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Everybody's responsible for about at least 10 different platforms that they have to make changes on and manage, and that just means that firewalls get less love. And the reality is that these single panes of glass make things easier to manage, but under the hood, firewalls have only gotten more complex, and they'll only continue to get more complex as time goes on. So kind of the learning curve piece to all this, AI ops is there to help operations do more with less. So fill in that skills gap. I'm going to show some pretty cool features about just getting visibility into the features that are rolled out, and adoption of those features as well, just to kind of raise the bar of our client security posture. So I do have slides today just to show a handful of things. I don't have a slide for every topic that we're going to go through, but I will jump around a little bit. So that said, Ashley, I'm going to pass it back to you. You can start wherever you like today.
Okay, great. That sounds good. So you already mentioned that's, what we're seeing across environments right now is not that people don't have the firewalls, but they're just harder to manage and trust over that time. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit more in that particular area.
Yeah. So across environments, if you're a managed service provider like Katalyst, we have lots of clients, and this is a screenshot of a demo, not our actual environment. Would never show that, but the idea here, I think everybody can appreciate, is that if you had to help manage 10 different client firewalls, that means you have 10 different ways that you're connecting to on-prem infrastructure. It could be through remote access VPN, or VDI environment, a remote access tool, or a probe that we send out. And then that means there's 10 different footprints for those clients. Some clients might have 2 firewalls, and others might have 20. They have different architectures, WAN architectures, DMZs. There's different points of contact, change control processes for each client. Some clients are like, please make the change as soon as I put in the ticket, and other clients are like, we need to run through a change control process, or CAB approval board, and then wait for a maintenance window. So that's a lot to know, and just operationally challenging. And when you're in the MSP space, I think a lot of us thrive on those challenges, but we also I really appreciate these types of tools when they come out, where it's a single place for us to go and try to streamline some of those processes. We still have to be mindful of people's change control process, but when we go to make a change in one client to another, it's a very similar process now with this single pane of glass. So we're excited to keep onboarding clients to Cisco Security Cloud Control through here. This is obviously not your view because you're not a managed service provider, but it is also important to know that we don't own your tenant. At the end of the day, when we help clients set up a brand new tenant, we hand the keys to them, and then they more or less delegate us access so that we can manage things over time. So just important to know that's your data, your telemetry. I meant to say this earlier, AI ops is a feature that you get to choose on whether you want to turn on in your specific tenant. We would not turn that on your behalf without your approval or consent there. So just a good call out there.
This is the multi-tenant view that we're just looking at.
Yep, this is the multi-tenant view on the screen here. So if you're an MSP like Katalyst, this is what you see. I just like to start there. If you're a client, this is a little more applicable here in just managing across different environments, whether it's you have multi-cloud defense where you're managing firewall rules and like Azure and AWS, or if you have Cisco Secure Firewall or the traditional ASAs, you would go to a single pane of glass here, right? And that security cloud control. You have the concept of creating shared objects across those environments. So oftentimes we'll go into environments and they'll have 10 different objects defining the same IP address in there, and trying to figure out which one's accurate, relevant, is often just a little nuanced challenge that we run into and face. So anytime we can share naming conventions and share objects, definitions, and push those across a whole bunch of different products, it's all about streamlining the operations there. And the security teams can typically appreciate that because it means they're auditing one set of objects, and the policies end up getting streamlined and a little more consistent across the board. Yeah, good question.
Okay. Did we cover what it looks like when we've got like a critical vulnerability or a 0-day comes in? What does that look like across all customers?
Yeah, so if you're a managed client of Katalyst, we would patch a critical vulnerability for you. I'll say the olden days, pre Cisco Security Cloud Control, that means we have to log into everybody's environment and try to figure out, what's vulnerable. And that just takes a lot of time. Like we got to make sure that we have an accurate inventory when a critical vulnerability comes out, but then we have to make sure we know what versions those are on. And then vulnerabilities might be specific to certain services. So it might be only impacting remote access VPN firewalls. And if you have 10 firewalls, only 2 of those might actually be vulnerable. So when we talk about vulnerabilities, there's usually two things I try to guide clients on. If you have something that touches the internet like a firewall, you should aggressively be patching that. And the second thing I'm usually talking to people about is the metrics that they need to be monitoring for vulnerability management. And there's 2, and there's mean time to detection, which is MTTD. And then the other, so that's how fast you can find out or learn about a vulnerability. And then the second is mean time to remediation, which is MTTR. So a single pane of glass like SCC, that allows you, the client, if you're logging in every day, you're going to get notifications on the dashboard of, hey, there's a new vulnerability out. You need to look at it, and it might impact your environment. So you've learned about it, you detected it faster. That's a big deal for us at Katalyst. We have other channels for monitoring vulnerabilities. Cisco does have a notification service where everybody can register and learn about vulnerabilities and get kind of out-of-band communications about it. But when we have a single pane of glass, it's another way for us. Systems break, people miss things. Hope that never happens. But if we have a single pane of glass, it's kind of like a fallback of like making sure that everybody has eyes on it, as well as it creates transparency with our clients. Like they log into the same dashboard we do, and if they see a vulnerability that they're worried about and want to talk to us about, they can, and it enables that. If you're a client that's not a managed service provider, a client of a managed service provider, then this is a big deal for you. If you didn't know that Cisco had a notification service, you can come to a single pane of glass and learn about all the vulnerabilities. So that helps reduce MTTD, which is the detection time. The other feature that is very important and pretty cool is AI Ops Insights. And there's this software upgrade planner where when a vulnerability comes out, you'll be able to see which of your firewalls are actually impacted. So instead of us having to log into all those environments and try to figure out what specific patches currently applied to a firewall and what services are running, AI Ops actually does some of that analysis for us and allows us to more quickly reach out to clients and tell them like, hey, you've got a vulnerability. Let's talk about a good time to patch those firewalls. So it ultimately reduces just the time to detection and time to remediate these things.
Great. What does a typical policy change look like from, request to deployment?
Yeah. I love this topic. It's a huge one. I could spend probably a good hour talking through what a firewall management program and change control looks like for application lifecycle. I didn't want to do that since we didn't have that much time. I'm going to highlight a few things and how things are changing using AI here. One is what's on the screen here. There's this AI assistant capability in firewalls. I would say 99.9% of the firewalls I've logged into in my life, just poorly written firewall rules all over the place. I've been doing this for 19 years, been consulting on doing firewall assessments for probably 15 or 16 of those. And it's just a challenge that I see. And I do attribute that a bit to the skills gap and people are asked to do more with less and just can't give the love they need to a firewall. But this AI assistant here, I was a little skeptical about it the first time I saw it, but it's embedded within Cisco Security Cloud Control. And I went in there and said, hey, I want to make a firewall change. In my fictitious example here, it was, I've got SentinelOne agents, which is an EDR platform, and I need those agents to be able to communicate with the SentinelOne management console. It's a SaaS console. I gave it a little bit of other information. So just prompted it to see what it would tell me of what I should do to build out this rule. And it was phenomenal on the feedback that it gave me. It gave me the documentation that's on the screen. You can't see all 5 steps that it gave, but it built out a rule for principle of least privilege and just told me how to structure everything and where to place that rule inside my firewall policy. And I would say if you have the opportunity to try it, please do. I would tell any client that if they followed these 5 steps and used AI Assistant every time they put a firewall rule in, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say they'd be like an 8 or a 9 at the end of the day if I were to come in and audit them. So a very powerful tool. And this is where we say we're just elevating those administrators that don't have enough time to put that love into the platform, or maybe it's a junior network administrator and we're asking them to put firewall rules, and they'll be able to follow these similar steps as well. So this is a big one. And then there's some AI capabilities of detecting or predicting any sort of negative impact to the changes that are going to be made. That's a newer feature. And then it's called the predictive analysis, impact analysis. And then there's also a feature we're going to talk a little bit later about, the policy analyzer. So if you do put in a rule and maybe you put it in the wrong spot, the policy analyzer feature will detect that and tell you like, hey, there's a better place for this. So you have an opportunity to fix that rather than just leave it in place. So a lot of good things in my opinion on just kind of the health of firewall policies that we'll be able to use moving forward.
That's great. How do you maintain consistency across environments that look different, essentially?
I love this question too. This is a really challenging one. It's probably one of the most challenging things I think that an MSP that manages firewalls has to face. When you onboard a client day one, it's not magically in a great spot. You've just taken on firewall infrastructure for a client that was struggling with it and is asking for help from an MSP. So it's 99 out of 100 times that firewall infrastructure is in not great shape. And just a challenge for MSPs in general. So I love the question because it's an opportunity to just kind of level set and say, like, it's not immediate that we're fixing things. One of the things that is important to us is improving that firewall policies and infrastructure over time. So we'll talk shortly about what that looks like. So consistency, a challenge in general, having a single pane of glass and shared objects and creating standard naming conventions and standardizing policies, that is all stuff that we work for, but definitely takes time. If you have a ton of tech debt, that takes a lot of time. If you have a firewall infrastructure that you deployed and just haven't touched, maybe it goes a little bit quicker. But these tools that we're using today are definitely going to help us move faster as an MSP to get people standardized on a policy sets that help us move faster and help respond to clients faster.
Awesome. Moving into just around like audits, what does the audit trail and change management look like inside the platform? Do you,
Yeah.
you just show that?
Yeah, so centralized audit log is a thing that's been there since day one, at least as far back as I can remember on the CDO original platform. One of the perks I would say of really any SaaS cloud-based platform is that there's a inherent separation of duty. The administrator that logs in and is making changes to the firewall, it's going to create a audit log event, and we don't actually have access to that underlying audit log. Cisco does. So that's the separation there. We can't go in and modify and delete anything or change anything. So it's immutable from our perspective, immutable from the client's perspective. And that's very powerful. So the who, what, where, when, in some cases why, depending on the platform or the product, is all logged. And what that translates into is when somebody inevitably asks, what changed on the network because something's going wrong, we can quickly come in here and just look and see, did anybody make any changes across any of the infrastructure that's being managed here? And if so, then we've isolated where we need to focus our troubleshooting efforts. And if not, we can move on to the next thing. So I'd say ultimately allows us to just move faster, respond faster here.
Okay. Faster responses.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Does that also translate over into fewer outages?
Yeah, I think so. Ultimately, that probably plays into that standardization conversation. If we have 10 clients and we standardize as much as possible, that means when we're making changes, when we're troubleshooting things, there's kind of less mental energy spent by the engineer trying to diagnose and discover new things. So, anytime we standardize, the answer is going to be, less, fewer outages because there's less mistakes.
Yeah. What kind of reporting is, available there that they may not have today?
Yeah, so I'll say mileage will vary a little bit just depending on the product that you have today. If you still have ASAs in your environment, the pain of there's no native centralized logging. There are logs that you can monitor, but they roll over so quickly. There's no data retention there, and if you have 10 firewalls, you have to log into 10 firewalls to look at those. So if you are onboarding, the traditional ASA, you are going from really painful logging platform to a whole lot of visibility, and that's great. If you're going from something like Firepower, Cisco Secure Firewall, then the reporting is probably about a wash from what you get visibility into. However, I would say that the Firepower Management Center, I'll say a pain point of that is the log retention on that. Usually I go into clients' environments and there's anywhere from about 4 hours to about 2 days worth of logs that we can pull from at any given time. And we can do some things to tweak and get that to be a little bit better. Maybe we can get up to a week with a lot of tuning and tweaking, but that takes time. With Cisco Security Cloud, everybody out of the gate gets 90 days worth of retention, and that can be increased up to, you can see on the screen here, 3 years in total. So just depending on what you have today is how much improvement you'll see on what you get out of SCC.
That's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
A week to 90 days right out of the gate. Awesome. Okay. So let's transition to a little bit to like deeper security. We talked about how we're managing at scale. So what are you seeing inside the environments that we kind of talked about before, or we mentioned that we were going to talk about today?
Yeah. So kind of one of the kind of pre-AI, the discovery process of learning about an infrastructure just takes time, and it's a manual process at the end of the day. There have been tools over the years, the AlgoSecs, the TwoFins, the Nippers, where we can kind of run some tools and get a quick glimpse into the environment, but they are far from perfect, and they never have been perfect, in my opinion. The things that we really want to know very quickly going into an environment is how are all the firewalls being managed? What features are turned on? What kind of monitoring is in place on them? And that takes time. So, we onboard a client, meaning we've been given access to their infrastructure. Maybe the client's provided some network diagrams if we're really lucky. And maybe they have a couple of standard operating procedures that they're able to provide us with how they do things today. And then from there, it's kind of on us to try to dig and learn as much as we can about the environment. And that's the part that becomes a manual process. So with these new tools, AI Ops Insights, which is pretty exciting for me because I do a lot of firewall assessments, is you immediately get visibility into what the client is entitled to and what is actually turned on in that environment. So very powerful stuff overall. A kind of real world scenario of when this feature was first turned on. I had missed a brand new feature from Cisco that was very exciting once I learned about it, but I missed it. But it showed up on this dashboard, and it's called the encrypted visibility engine. And it was released, I think, in version 7.3, and we were already on like 7.5, and so I was pretty far behind on it. But as soon as we turned on SEC, it popped up, and when we dug into it, it was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer to turn this feature on. Everybody's entitled that has an IPS license, which is most of our clients that have Firepower Management Center. And it's not just for IPS. So if you have a license, it's going to tell you, hey, here's the things that you have, and are those being used in some way, shape, or form. But if even without the license, there are some features that it'll call out that everybody should have access to. So this is a big one. Excited about overall. In the same vein, getting feedback on best practices that are enabled in the environment. So not only is the feature turned on and being used, but how are those things configured? And if anybody's been in Microsoft's environment, I like to equate this to like a secure score. It's a way for consultant to come in or you, the client, to say, hey, are we following industry best practices? And Cisco is going to continue to keep rolling out new features, new checks that go along with those to understand, like, how do we keep raising the bar? How do we bring visibility to clients that they can do better? And there's quick ways to do it because these checks also give you the how to go remediate and how to go fix those things. I might be jumping ahead a question or two. I'm going to go ahead and just roll into the third feature on the AI side that gives us really good visibility and onboarding and kind of practical real world how we use this. But when we take on a client and they've got really messy firewall rules, or they've got hundreds of rules in place, like, it takes time to try to understand the structure and how they built things out. And inevitably, if they have hundreds of rules, it's very likely that they didn't order those properly. So we call those shadow rules, or sometimes there's two rules that do the exact same thing in place, so they're redundant. We're usually looking for things like objects that are not used, and just kind of quick wins where we can do some house cleaning and clean things up. So if we can get help right out of the gate, get clients down from, let's say, 100 rules and just like almost immediately get down to 80 rules, that's a really big deal for the operational guys that are going to be supporting it, because that means there's 20 less rules that they have to look at and kind of dig through when they're troubleshooting something. So this is a powerful tool. This is, I already mentioned AlgoSec and 2FIN. I remember using those, goodness, I don't know, it was about 15 years ago when I was first introduced to those, and that's kind of what they touted, was that they could analyze rules. And now this is being rolled in and baked into Cisco's product, so that you can get the same value without having to buy another product there as well. So very powerful stuff overall.
Awesome. Um, how is the platform continuing to monitor and flag issues over time? I don't know if we've covered that.
Yeah, so these last three slides I've shown are just continuously monitoring and just updating. So I think on, this one's a good one, right? You can see it's just historical over time. Can't remember if these are daily checks that are run, but imagine the machine learning and AI models are constantly churning on telemetry in your tenant that is updating regularly. So these are, I'll call them real time. There might be some delay on, if you make a change and when it's going to tell you that this is resolved, but it is continuously checking.
Awesome. I think it's a good place to show what it looks like in practice. So do we want to transition to Sean so we can look at how that works in a real environment in Auvik?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, Sean, we're turning it over to you.
No problem. Hi, everyone. So a lot of what Uriah just covered was the SCC platform. That's really how we configure devices, tune devices, how we're able to take action when we're troubleshooting fairly rapidly in response to any type of incident that occurs or anything that's been alerted to us from that specific platform. What I want to show you today is the dashboard. So I've set up just a quick demo environment in our Auvik dashboard, and I'll share that out with you here in just one moment. But I'm just going to take through some of the capabilities that we have. So we're thinking about SCC, the security cloud control, in terms of managing the network, alerting to events that occur on these specific security devices. Auvik is how we're managing and monitoring the network holistically at a high level. So we're covering all your devices on your network. Went ahead and preloaded our lab here with.
I'll stop sharing, Sean, so you can start.
Oh, thank you, Uriah. Yeah. Okay. Went ahead and preloaded the lab here with just a Cisco, just an old 3850 I had. And this is actually a Meraki MX firewall. The reason for this is Uriah has done a lot to describe what features are available in SCC and how we can utilize those. All of the alerting and notifications, they should be configurable to be sent to something like a PSA, which is what your MSP is going to be using. That's what we use. It's the ticketing system that takes those alerts, puts them in front of engineers who can action them, and then also sends notifications to your team and puts them in front of you. So what we have available on the screen here, you can see we've got a switch and a firewall, very basic setup. The switch is kind of playing the edge for the provider, and then we have that configured VLAN over to the firewall, as well as just LAN data traffic that's coming across the firewall to the switch and back to your LAN devices. I didn't put any LAN devices into the lab network itself, but just wanted to give you an overview of what we can see. So logging into Auvik, the first thing Auvik does that I really like is it creates a network map for you. So that, talking about saving time, that is something that takes a lot of time for a network engineer, especially coming into a new environment. So just having an automated crawl that's going to go ahead and do that for us. It may not be 100% perfect at all times, but we are able to configure these interfaces and define what they're connected to if for some reason the platform makes an incorrect determination. So we've got some granularity there. Gives you a great dashboard overview of devices in your environment, as well as the usage on those devices. So we're tracking all of this via ICMP and SNMP to the device, SNMP v3 supported, SHA ES 256 supported. So everything stays encrypted, and it's really just telemetry data that makes its way back to us. You can monitor your internet connections. This is actually monitored from the outside in. So what we're doing is we're actually pinging across your gateway. This rules out any possibility that we're not able to hit the interface on the firewall because of some internal issue, and just says there's definitely an issue from the outside in on this. Individual device metrics that we monitor, again, via SNMP. So that'll be your device bandwidth, latency, and jitter. So everybody who's complaining about slow speeds, we like to get this. This is configurable at both the device level as well as we get these metrics at the interface level. So we can look at uplink interfaces. We can actually configure alerting on those interfaces to just send all of that data across and alert the engineer. If there does seem to be an event, the engineer will log in and then they can look at this data, pull it up on their screen, take a quick review on a if there's a specific time when the issue's been reported, we can really drill in there. It gets fairly granular in terms of what you can do. And then again, I was saying you can pull in by interface itself to see if there's any issues with overutilization or errors that are occurring on interfaces. And all of that is configurable to alert back up to the engineer. On the MSP side, let's say everything goes perfectly in the environment. We take all of this and we make it available in reporting. So this is going to be something all of our managed services customers are aware. We have these MSRs where we hop on the phone, give you an overview of the service, but we also like to provide some feedback on the environment as well. And what we'll do is we'll look at your devices using a report like this or other metrics from the interface and device statistics I just drew out, and really just give you an overview of what's working, what isn't, where we would recommend improvements in the environment. And reports like this are great for just giving your network administrators kind of a quick 5-minute conversation instead of a let me log into device X, Y, and Z. So maintaining the same single pane of glass platform managed approach to both management with SCC and then monitoring via AVIC. It really just gives us a holistic view of the entire environment, including devices that wouldn't be managed via SCC. I think if there's anything else to cover in AVIC, it may be questions based. So I'll pause there, Ashley, and
Sure.
I'm
I'm
sure
not
we have
sure if
time
you
for that.
covered when the platform recommends a change, what does the review and approval process look like before that gets pushed out?
Yeah, on the managed side, so if the platform does recommend a change, obviously we're in a state where we have AI has become incredibly capable, as Uriah was just describing for us, but I trust but verify is the mentality we like to keep. So we're going to take the recommendation from AI. You're going to have an engineer who's going to receive that, review it, and then review the environment, ensure that everything makes sense, submit a change for approval with any IT contact that we have on our client side. And then once approved, we'll go ahead and implement that during a window, test and validate, and then close it out post that.
Okay, great. Thanks for covering that.
Yeah.
Well, we can move if you think it's appropriate. Let's go ahead and just open the event for Q&A. I didn't see any questions pop into the space, so we can unmute attendees. And if you have specific questions, please feel free to go ahead and unmute and ask those questions.
Yep. So guys, the way that this works is I'm going to request to unmute all of you. If you do have a question, then you can unmute yourself. If you do not have a question, you can just mute yourself back if you have nothing to say. I did have 2 questions that came in to me directly, Ashley. So if there's no questions that no one wants to ask, I'll go ahead and ask those then. But I'm going to go ahead and request to unmute everyone. And if you have a question, feel free to speak up. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the ones that came in. So this one's going to be for Uriah. So someone asked, are there any new features or capabilities that Cisco will be releasing in SEC in the near future?
Yeah, it's a good question. We actually, as a partner to Cisco, we spend the time to learn, product roadmaps. And actually, just this week, we sat down and learned about a new feature that's going to be rolled out with Security Cloud Control. It's already rolled out technically. It's called Hybrid Mesh Firewall. So I didn't have a slide on it today, but the concept is it's kind of like an abstract layer to the firewall policies where you write a policy once, and then it pushes down to a whole bunch of different products, which is pretty neat. Saves you time, obviously, you have multiple Cisco products. The kind of maybe in conjunction to that, a very similar thing that I was excited about was eventually, and I don't know if this is official yet or like you can do it today, but it's coming, is that you will be able to manage third-party firewalls through Cisco Security Cloud Control. So if you have Palos and you have Fortinets, that's going to be able to be pulled in, some portion of it, probably not full-blown management would be my guess, but the firewall, kind of the data plane layer of those firewalls would be my expectation. So those are exciting for me. That's been a kind of a pain point of multi-vendor centralized management firewall platforms.
Okay, awesome. And then the next one's kind of a long question. There's a few in here, so just bear with me. But they said maintaining firewall policies can sometimes be challenging with rules and policies. They've been changing throughout the years. How can we get our hands wrapped around ineffective and potentially high risk rules and policies? And then a follow-up question to that is what should we do moving forward for adding new rules, auditing existing rules, and performing regular cleanup or rules and policies?
You
And
may
I know
feel
that was long, so I can repeat it, any pieces of it.
I'll take it. So I used to tell people, I still tell people, like firewall policies are an art that you learn over time, and it's kind of like molding a clay pot. Like it starts off looking a little like I have no clue what this is. Not that I don't have a path forward from a clay block to making a pot, but you may not see it until you get closer to a formed shape. It's a big topic overall. If you have one firewall, the answer is wildly different than we have 30 firewalls. So we're always trying to leverage the native tools of the platform. So a lot of them have supported this for a long time. But any sort of like inheritance, if you have 30 firewalls, you probably have maybe 2 or 3 types of sites where it's like we have data centers, we have a couple of corporate office, big offices, and then everything else is maybe a small branch office. So you really maybe have 3 types of offices. So at a high level, you really should have 3 types of policies defined and then inheritance defined below all those. From there, using tools like the policy analyzer tool to at least clean up unused rules, things that haven't been hit in a long time. Cisco now, for a little while now, I should say, has a really nice firewall hit rule tool where you can see like it's been 8 months since anything's hit this rule, so you can figure out if it needs to be removed. The thing that I don't always get to talk to clients about, and I can briefly describe it, is that you should have a process for onboarding a new application. And like some organizations, the IT director might have a credit card and be buying stuff, and maybe each department head does, and then they've got a bunch of applications and trying to define rules about shadow IT that you may not know about is difficult. But if you are a little more mature in your purchasing process, IT is embedded in that process. So new applications are going to be bought. IT has say, security is going to have an opportunity to define firewall policies. And then if you have a secure offboarding, application offboarding process, it's going to go through change control. And that's going to be an opportunity for everybody to hear like, oh, we're getting rid of application X. Let me go remove all the firewall policies that are associated with that. So it's a tough, quick answer question. I would recommend that everybody explore that AI assistant for new policies, new firewall rules moving forward, just to kind of stop the bleeding, if you will, of all that tech debt of bloated policies that don't ever get touched, and just using principle of least privilege, which that AI assistant definitely called out, is a big deal.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Uriah. Well, if there's no more questions, this actually was perfect timing. We're almost right at time. So great job, guys, on the presenters. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to your account manager if you want to discuss any of this further. This was recorded, so I'm happy if anyone wants to have access to this recording. We'll package it up nicely so all the fluff's out of it. If you guys want to share it with any of your teams, we will send out the recording. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, just reach out to your account manager. And thank you everyone for joining and hopping on this afternoon, and to the presenters, thank you guys too.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Everyone have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.